Hi, and welcome to Run Tall with Tim, the YouTube channel that's dedicated to all runners everywhere. I'm Tim, and I upload new running videos every single week. If you're new to the channel, I try to get new videos out on both Wednesday and Saturday mornings, and that's at 5 a.m. Standard Eastern Time here in the US. And if you want to save yourself a little time, I tried to make that easy for you. If you open the description, there you'll see that I've created some chapters. Simply click on the timestamp for the part of the video that you want to watch, and it'll take you right there. Today, I'm taking a second look at the Skechers Go Run Razor Plus. Now, this is a shoe that I have over 50 miles on it, so it's a good opportunity for us to take a look at the shoe. We'll look at the upper, talk about the midsole, we'll look at the outsole, just to see how it's been doing over the last 50 miles, see how it's holding up. We'll talk more about the performance. When I initially reviewed the shoe, I did have at least one concern going into it about the fit of the upper, so we'll talk about that, as well as a whole lot more. But before we get to that, let's just take a look, see what these shoes can do in action, and then when we come back together, we're going to talk about all that stuff and a whole lot more. So Skechers has been around since 1992, but at that time they were focused primarily on fashion rather than performance. It really wasn't until about 10 years ago that they introduced the Go Run line of performance running shoes, and they've had some success. You know, it was the Go Run shoe that was on the feet of the elite marathon runner who won the Boston Marathon in 2014 at age, I think he was 38, 39 years old. So, you know, that's a big feather in their cap. But let's talk about the Go Run Razor Plus here today. And I'll start with the cost. You know, it's $135 US, and that's pretty much on par with other high quality daily trainers that are out there. And as we zoom in now, and we'll talk about the upper first. Oh, before I get to that, you know, I mentioned in the intro that part of what drew me to the shoe was the weight. And, you know, it comes in at 6.8 ounces on my scales, or 193 grams. So anything under, you know, at that weight, under 7 ounces is really an ultra weight shoe. So I think they did a terrific job here. Now on their website, I think they have it listed at 6.5 ounces. So my scales did have it come in just slightly heavier than that. But my scales have been pretty consistently weighing them at that 6.8 ounces, and that's for a men's size 9 here in the US. Okay, now let's zoom in on that upper. And, you know, this is a mono mesh knit polyester upper. So, you know, it's got a long title, but needless to say, it is a really terrific feeling, you know, on foot. It's lightweight, it's breathable, very breathable. The run sequence that you saw at the beginning here, it's pretty cold in Michigan, and it was pretty cool underfoot. But I've also had these out in warmer weather. I first got them a couple of months ago, and they've been in and out of my rotation ever since. But they were cool underfoot then. They weren't so cool that I felt uncomfortable out there in the winter months. So I think that, they struck a pretty decent balance here. But if you're in warmer weather, I think you'll certainly enjoy the upper on this shoe because it does offer, a fair amount of comfort in that warm weather. As we pan around to the side of the shoe, we can see that, it is stripped down, and parts of it are translucent that you can see right through that upper. And that's just one way that they can keep that weight down by not having a bunch of plastic overlays. Now, with the exception of their Skechers logo that's back towards the heel, and they do have, as we look at that, a little bit of material around that heel counter. So let's look at the eyelet chain. This is kind of where that lockdown feeling begins. And I was able to get a really secure lockdown feeling in this shoe. And you can see from the eyelet chain that they've got some added, structural material, both on the outside as well as on the inside cage. And then interesting, as we look at the tongue of the shoe, it is super thin. It's got these big wings that lay nice flat across your foot. I found it to be really comfortable. And then partway up the tongue, it's got that little tab area that you can, thread your laces through to help keep that tongue in place. And now that is really tight to get both your laces through there. And what I found is once you do that, and because it's towards the top of your eyelet chain, when you cinch those down, that alone holds your laces in place. I think if I wanted to, I could probably run without tying them after getting to that point in the shoe because it does keep them snugged in pretty well. I don't recommend it, but I think that, I probably could get away with that, at least for a little while anyway. So now, and it does have a place for a runner's knot. So if you're a fan of using a runner's knot, it does have that capability so that you can get that locked in, secure feeling across the midfoot that you enjoy. And I think that this shoe does a very good job at. Oh, and as we look at that upper, one of the things that concerned me when I first reviewed the shoe is that my pinky toe kind of felt like it was curled under a little. And, it was right in this particular area of the shoe, right in here, right where your pinky toe would come into play. And that was a little concerning to me at the time because I had the experience in another shoe, Hoka Rencon, where I had that same feeling, and I ended up getting a pretty good blister there for a while. And I was concerned that might happen again, but it did not. So I guess that was an unwarranted concern on my part. The upper feels really good, and I didn't have any issues with blistering at all anywhere on the shoe. So that's good news. So now as we take a look at the heel collar and the tab of the shoe, they've got a pretty adequate amount of padding here. For a shoe that is so light, it's surprising that they were able to get that much padding around those areas, and it makes for a very comfortable run. Now this is one of those rare shoes that can kind of do it all. So you can go on short runs, long runs, and feel comfortable. You can pick up the pace, and this is a race day shoe. If you want to take this out on a 5K, a 10K, or even half marathon, I think it would be pretty good choice to do that. Now, as we take a look around now at that heel counter area, they do have a moderate amount of structure here. Plenty really for what's required of this shoe. And for someone who overpronounces like I do, I mention that a lot, pretty much every video. I do appreciate having a little bit of structure in the heel just to give me a little bit of stability in my ankles. And I certainly found it with the Go Run Razor Plus. Now let's turn our attention to the midsole. And, that's really where the magic happens in this shoe. And I talk about that a lot, or talk about the midsole being the engine of the shoe. And, first I'm going to start by just talking about the shape of it, because they have what they call this M-strike technology, which is basically how they sculpted that midsole foam. And after having run in this for a while, I can say that it's really comfortable, and it does promote a midfoot strike. And I think the way that it does that is it has a pretty good arc or bevel there on the shoe itself. You can see how much that is there. And that does promote you to strike the ground in that midfoot to forefoot area. And so I really enjoyed that. And it gives you lots of bounce. It's not a really particularly high stack height. It has 28 millimeter stack height in the heel and 24 millimeters in the forefoot for a 4 millimeter offset from the heel to the toe. And it's made of what they call their Hyper Burst midsole material. And it's really a nitrogen-infused EVA foam, and they use what they call a supercritical process to make that happen. And that's just a chemical term as to how they build or make that their midsole material of theirs. And it has got a lot of cushion and bounce and energy return to it. And I haven't noticed really any degradation in that feeling since the first day that I started running in it. And, that speaks to a couple of issues. First, when I first started running in the shoe, it was considerably warmer outside. I had shorts on when I was running in these back in October. And now it's below freezing. I think it was about 15, 18 degrees Fahrenheit here during that run sequence. So it was, a bit chilly. But, these shoes still felt extremely comfortable underfoot. And, I don't see any kind of compression marks, anything along those lines that would indicate to me that there's any kind of breakdown in that midsole material. So I'm really impressed with that. And I'm really impressed with just how cushioned they feel for having such a low stack height, relatively, compared to other shoes that I've run in with a much higher stack height. Now let's just flip these over and we'll take a look at that GoodYear outsole rubber that they have. And they've got a ton of it. It's a real thin layer. It's done a pretty adequate job, I would say. It's difficult when you're out running in the kinds of conditions that I'm running in right now, because no shoe is going to be, absolutely fantastic on ice. You're going to slip. But I think that they've done a really good job. I've had them out on wet pavement and in wet grass and things of that nature. And they've helped me feel pretty secure when I've been out running. Again, I think that outsole material is going to be pretty durable, and I think it helps you stick to the ground pretty well. So I think, they've done a good job with that. And as we look at that, you can see that there's really no significant signs of wear. There's some, but again, I've had these out on, dirt and pavement and concrete and all kinds of different terrain. And so far, I have not really seen any, like I said, significant signs of wear that would make me think that these shoes are going to wear out prematurely. I think you can easily get 400 or 500 miles on these. And I think at, $135 US that is a pretty good buy. So, hey, I really enjoyed doing this video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.